We're live.
Okay. Good morning, officers, members and viewers. Welcome to the Audio Scrutiny Committee meeting. It is being conducted as a hybrid meeting in accordance with the meetings protocol of the Council and the orders to ensure we continue to take democratic decisions in a transparent manner. Those attending remote, I would remind you that this meeting is being streamed live to the public. So can I remind you to switch off your camera and microphone when not speaking to the meeting, which will help to improve the quality of the recording. Can I ask you, both members also, to switch on their chat function and use this when they wish to speak. Please do not speak until I invite you to speak, and remember to switch on your camera and mic. As this is a relatively small meeting, online voting is required to get to the members present in the chamber. So before I declare a vote, I will ensure all members' votes are collated, as well as being broadcast. A live recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the council website for public viewing and training within the council. A Welsh translation of this meeting will also be provided on request. Morning. Do we have any apologies, sir?
No apologies, Chair.
Any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting then, please. On page 3 to 9 of your pack. Going through them for accuracy, page 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Can we deal with matters arising, please? As you indicated you wanted to speak to this.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just like to draw your attention to the meeting we had on the 30th of September last year, where the committee asked whether a response had been received in relation to the concerns regarding university student numbers. The committee asked whether the university would be able to attend committee and explain why student numbers were low. And we confirmed that the head of Regeneration Economic Development would be providing an answer in due course. So I just wondered if we had an update on that and whether the university had been invited to attend.
We've had an officer response to this, but I don't believe we've had a response from the university. So we'll.
I'll use that up quickly.
Thank you.
Any other problems arising? No? Okay, thank you very much. Right. Item 4, planning and performance policy. And we've got 4 officers here for this morning. Who's going to present, please?
Thank you.
Ms. McKim will present.
Thank you. And I've with me my colleagues Janice Dent, who's been responsible for this policy to date, and Sean Powell, who will be responsible in the future, so and then we're both involved in its development. If I just talk through the key points of the report, which starts on page 11, and we've got a draft policy attached. So we have a planning and performance policy currently, but there have been a number of changes in the life of that policy. Notably, in November 2022, the council approved its corporate plan. Therefore, this policy needs to sit behind that. We also need to make changes regarding the implementation of the Local Government Act, which has come in since the life of the last policy. There's been a management restructure within the council and indeed at cabinet member level, so a range of responsibilities have changed. And so this is largely a refresh on that basis. The purpose of the policy is to provide officers, stakeholders, members with an understanding of how the council has oversight of its corporate plan, strategic priorities and performance. It's about planning, monitoring and reporting. Really important that there's a consistent approach at all levels and across all services, and this will give us an opportunity to refresh that. Although it's written within the corporate centre, sort of the team here, we talk to officers across the council to make sure we've got buy-in to this policy. The policy also references risk management, which will be updated as a sister policy, but that is in the oversight of Governance and Audit Committee, so we'll have that discussion there as well to make sure those two things line up. Regarding the changes in particular, the Local Government Act 2021, key areas here are the requirement for self-assessment and an annual self-assessment report, which is a variation on the previous report. Once every electoral cycle to complete a panel performance assessment, and we're working with people like the WLGA on how that is developed. And also important to note that it is this committee that sees that annual report, and that is on your work programme for September, I believe. Also the corporate plan, which members will be aware of, but other key strategies such as the climate change plan and the digital strategy all need to be aligned, and we need to have a common way of monitoring planning performance. I've mentioned the kind of council restructure at officer level, really important. We've got a golden thread there, but there are some changes around regional bodies as well. We've seen the development of Gwent PSB. We're seeing the Cardiff Capital Region development into a corporate joint committee. So a range of other kind of technical pieces that have been updated. A couple of things to note on finance and HR performance. There are links there to the finance service area, financial monitoring, and things like the medium-term budget monitoring, and also within human resources, that individual check-in piece, which needs to link in here. Some issues we have currently around benchmarking, because during the pandemic, Welsh Government ceased benchmarking and comparison, so we're working with them and the WLGA on bringing that back, and they've recently launched a new self-assessment tool that we'll be working with. Mid and end year reviews go to Scrutiny Committee, but not to this committee, to the performance committees. And also to note that in support of this document, there'll be training and support for officers. And of course, we're able to provide training and support for members as well. I'll probably pause there. Charity, any questions?
Thank you. And just to be clear, we're asked to comment on the policy, not the elements that make feed into the policy.
Yes, the policy, and we'll be taking those comments on board, taking that into the democratic decision process.
Okay, is everybody happy with that? Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yes, Chair. Thanks.
Please.
Hi,
John Bright.
Thank you. So my very first scrutiny committee, performance scrutiny for people chair there was adamant that well, minutes. It was talking about RAG, so I don't know if this is sort of changing. But that's not the case now. We're still good. We're still using RAG, aren't we? He was giving. Well, he made the committee believe that that system of ranking was going to change.
Okay.
That's not the case.
I doubt it, I guess. So, but it is complemented by other things. So in our performance management now, we do. It's really difficult to move away from RAG because it's commonly understood, isn't it? And everyone gets that. It's an at-a-glance capability, but we do look at other things, sort of interim updates, percentage towards, because RAG on its own perhaps is a bit blunt. Yeah, absolutely. So, but I have heard that discussed by members previously. We didn't ever make that decision. And in terms of, because there is something as well in publishing our performance in the way the public understands it and is in common with other authorities, I think really difficult to make that change. I guess my second comment would be, therefore, we definitely need to communicate this when we've got a signed up version so everyone fully understands that, perhaps. Thanks.
Could I just comment, Councillor Bright, that in other organisations I've seen a longer RAG system and just introduce a couple more categories, doesn't make any clearer because you still have to pick on one category to stick your results in. So if you wanted a five point system, you know, it's just complicated. Okay. Other question, please? Councillor Rheoli, thank you.
Yeah. I looked at this and it's so bland that, you know, I could not really relate it much to a lot of practical things I feel we need to do. Can I just ask one specific thing? I think the corporate plan must be, one of its objectives must be to do something about the city centre. You know, I understand all the national and Welsh issues that affect, you know, the empty shops and sort of the, you know, vitality really of city centres. And yet really what I see is things that actually, that are not sort of pointing in an upward direction, but in a downward direction. I mentioned one thing that came to my notice only yesterday because I saw it in the South Wales Argus. For example, the fountains that form public part of the public realm between the footbridge and the city centre, Fry's Walk, and all that. It was really one of the big sort of projects we looked at, you know, to open the city centre, to regenerate that part of the city centre, and yet we have decided, it seems, you know, and I can see the democratic decision underlying that one, that we are to get rid of the fountain and to actually just put cover it with soil and all that. I know it's a practical thing, but it's a major thing. It's what people see, it's what people say, well, what are you doing that for? You know, we want to attract people to the city centre, but what we are doing, we are sticking plasters, to be honest with you, in this particular case, because of maybe vandalism or antisocial behaviour affecting part of the public realm that we should be proud of. You know, I look at this policy and it's all words, and I can't relate it to practical things that the citizens of Newport want to see, and they complain to me about.
Would you respect, I did say that we were looking at the policy and not the elements that fall into the policy. And with your point about the fountains, I understand you've had a reply from a cabinet member on this subject.
All I had was that it was something that it would appear that we as a council did because of vandalism or because of antisocial behaviour that has affected the fountains beforehand. I think she gave me one reply, then she gave me a modified one, and the one I've just related is the one I had last.
Yeah, I perfectly understand your points, but I don't think it's something this committee can deal with. And
yeah, well, what do we deal with on this committee? Approving a form of words, is it?
Well, we're approving.
It's asking me, is the policy, you know, sort of fit for purpose, basically?
Well, but you.
I can pass that. I can answer that question, Chair.
But you're talking specifically about the budget.
It's nothing to do with the budget. Sorry.
Consultation. Well, that's what the cabinet member told you.
No, it isn't to do with the budget. It hasn't been a democratic decision about changing the purpose of that part of the public realm. And it is a reaction rather than a reaction, basically, to maybe an antisocial behaviour problem.
If I can come in on the councillor's point about, does the corporate plan talk about revitalising the city centre? It does. And this committee will look at the annual review of the corporate plan later this year. And that isn't what this policy is, but this policy is making sure that we are, when we do that annual report and when we report on performance, that we do that in a sound, legal auditable way. So that is really important. It doesn't cover that issue, so I'm unable to respond to that. But what I would say is the city centre is in the corporate plan, and this committee will see the annual report on the corporate plan basis. That's check.
Does that clarify, Councillor Rheoli?
No, it doesn't answer the question, but I won't push it any further.
Thank you. Anyone else? Could I draw your attention to what we're supposed to be considering this morning? Consider the impact of the policy to deliver effective planning and performance arrangements to monitor and report delivery of the Council's corporate plan 2022 to 2027 and ensure continuous improvement across Council services. Now, I think it's difficult to comment on the continuous improvement part of it, but are we happy that we're capturing all the things that go into this policy? Okay.
Representative Chair.
Councillor Evans?
Yeah, Chair, I mean, I agree with you, Meek Dad, but it's probably not the best place to do it. I mean, ultimately, this is a fairly complex and dry document, and it is what it is, and I'm quite happy to accept it and note it, but I can't see us any recommendations which I can make or the committee can make on this particular item.
Yeah, that's the first point. Is committee content with that one? And on the second point, we're asked to ensure that how this policy informed, and that's the point I've tried to stress, that we're looking at the parts of the policy, not the whole, and does it comply with the Local Government Act 2021? Which, you know, unless Ms. McKim advises us differently, I think it probably does.
Well, I'd hope so, Chair.
Certainly, Chair, we've looked at models elsewhere. It is a framework document, that is its purpose. It's intended to be a simple framework document, but we have looked at models elsewhere, we've taken advice, we've reviewed the legislation, so I can reassure you.
Okay, thank you. And the final point, do we wish to make any comments? Well, Councillor Evans just said no. Does anybody else wish to make any comments on this policy?
Right, if I can just make a small comment that the word planning in the naming of the policy is, I found it a little bit confusing because initially I thought it might have related to the planning as a, you know, as of planning, you know, as land use and that sort of thing. So I think what it means is planning, well, plans, projects. I'm not sure what the word planning exactly mean in this particular case. I think it needs to be clarified. Okay,
thank you. Will you take that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Baker Westhead is moving to Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Baker Westhead. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering. I mean, I agree really with what Councillor Evans was saying. It is quite it's a technical document, obviously, and quite dry, and it's difficult, really, particularly being in the first term to come to sort of like a full understanding of absolutely everything that it encompasses. I can see what it's aiming to achieve, but I was interested to see that there's the framework is going to be working with Welsh local government and Data Cymru to establish a new mechanism. So I was just wondering, you know, how far along it is in terms of looking at what other authorities in Wales can be compared as a reasonable benchmark for Newport Council. You know, I've just wondered, it's curiosity really to see what other councils we're sort of relating ourselves to in terms of benchmarking, please.
Yeah, on that one specifically, they're working towards 24, 25 when the framework will be in place, because during the pandemic, sorry, Mr. Kim, you're better at answering the question to me.
Well, no, that's fine, Chair. Yeah, we are working with other authorities in Wales and WLGA on the long-term solution. You're quite right. They've actually released their new self-assessment tool this month. So we'll be now reviewing that and working out how that works for us. And I guess in terms of if if you were kind of working towards who might we compare ourselves with, it does depend. Some comparisons are universal. You could compare yourself with all councils, and for some things we would probably compare ourselves with other cities because of our population makeup and you know, the differences across Wales. So it would depend on the different pieces of data, and unfortunately, because it's been a few years since we've had that data, it's difficult to say what that is, but we try to contextualise and look at useful, relevant examples for us to understand our own performance, and we're looking forward to getting back to doing that in this process.
Thank you very much. So I'm guessing then from that in future we'll have some points of comparison, you know, once this policy is fully up and running and able to be compared, we'll have some sort of breakdown as to which aspects of the policy relate to which other authorities. Is that correct?
Yeah, certainly. But we used to have what they called a family of councils that we fitted in as Ms. McKim said, you know, size and budgets and all that sort of thing. And that is something I would imagine we're developing again.
Yes.
Clearly, we won't be compared with Cardiff, but even Swansea is a good bit bigger than us. But there must be other authorities that fall in that. You know, like Caerphilly we used to get compared with.
It's difficult to guess without seeing the data there. So we need to see the data to make those comparisons. And where you would see that, councillor, then is on the other, I'm afraid, on the performance committees, because the policy is in the remit of this committee. The individual performance is in the remit of the performance committees. So what you would expect to see is at the end of year in service plans, you would expect to see year-on-year performance, but also the capability of comparing on some data, not everything is shared, on some data with how we're doing elsewhere. Perhaps the end of year corporate plan, you'd expect to see some of that. But we just received it, so it won't be for this end of year, but we would hope for next year, certainly.
Oh, that's really helpful. Thank you very much for clarifying that.
Thank you. So can we close out on this agenda item then, please? Okay, it's been content? Yes. Okay, all in favour? No dissent?
No.
Thank you very much. Right, moving on to item 5, and this is an information report, and these are the answers to the questions we raised last in February 2023. So it's people had time to study the answers.
Chair. Oh.
We can't modify this one, but you can certainly ask questions. Yeah, Councillor Evans, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We've just been sent a much more comprehensive document, 71 pages, which obviously in the last 20 minutes I haven't had a chance to look at. But I was just scanned through, and this is a concern where there's a question here about Oaklands and short break provision. What do you think the council should do with a saving proposal? And it, according to this, 35% said you should make the full budget saving and 20% a small budget saving. Now,
sorry, Councillor Evans, this document you're referring to.
So it was an appendix to the actual, including the actual report, that wasn't open and reliable for members, so it's just been circulated.
So it's not come to us, it's come to members in general.
No, it's come to this committee.
About 20 minutes ago, Chair. But I mean, my point is I just simply don't believe that, particularly as I think it's over 50% thought it was the most important to save it, or second most important thing to save. So, I mean, I'm like I say, I haven't had a chance to read the whole document, obviously, but I'd just love to know how they got to that conclusion, because I don't know a single person who thinks we should have made a full saving on the Oaklands respite care.
With your permission, then, I think we ought to defer this one, because we can't have 71 pages delivered to us 20 minutes ago and be expected to comment on them now. So if you're in agreement, we'll defer this to our next meeting.
Short of that, Chair, instead of deferring, we could take questions by email and forward them for response. Because it is information only.
Well, even if it's sorry, Chair, even if it's information only, I think it's important that we have it attached to our next agenda, because, like I said, that's one thing I've seen. And rather than email back and forth, I think it would be better if it came and somebody was here to explain how they managed to get to that statistic.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So I'd ask you to defer this to the next meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Chair,
Hello, yeah.
Chair.
That's all I wanted.
Yeah. I won't dissent from that. You know, any additional time for members to consider things is always good. But I was just gonna say that actually I am pleased that actually we have got this report. We did request it at the time when we were discussing the budget, and what I think, you know, the value of it really is how it might inform, or how it will inform, the next time when we come also to do a consultation on the budget, especially when you have to find so many saving and you have to plug such a huge gap in your finances, which I think might happen again next year. I can't forecast yet. So I'm very pleased to see that document. Yeah, I would support, you know, we give it more time before we discuss it. But I think the central bit is that for it to be really useful is how the officers and cabinet members, when they come to plan the budget next year, would actually look at it and try and utilize its finding to improve the engagement and to try and reach as many people as possible to sum them on these on the measures they propose to do.
If I can refresh your memory, we did have Mr. Rushworth along and to talk about this process, and we did make some recommendations, particularly about consultation. But you know, all I'm asking you to do is defer this one now to our next meeting, and we can have a full debate on all the points that you've raised in the light of the information that's just submitted to us.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, for us to discuss, we now have the information about that exercise, and we're going to discuss it next time, and hopefully we may make further recommendations on the basis of that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you know, we've got a 71-page document that's just been given us in the last 20 minutes, so you can't possibly expect people to have read this.
Oh, but we did have a week to consider it, so that is true, isn't it?
No, it
was.
Is it just tabled?
It was included in the report itself, in the information report, but Councillor Bright informed me that it wasn't opening reliably for everyone. I could open it, but Councillor Bright couldn't open it.
Yeah.
So it was included, but obviously if it wasn't opening for everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chair, just on that point, and I've got the original document we got here, which is 30-something pages long. This is 71 with a lot more information on, so they are different. They are different reports.
Well, anyway, we've agreed. We haven't had the information we need for this debate to go ahead. Okay. So unless anyone's adamant they want to discuss it this morning, we'll do it at our next meeting, and that's still time to meet the budget cycle, which is Mr. Rushworth explained to us. It starts in about July, and then it'll go forward till November, when we'll be asked to determine on the consultation process, etc., etc. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Right, so item 6, then we can say thank you to the officer. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Chair, I didn't realise that members couldn't see the.
Item 6, please. Conclusion of committee reports. So as we've only got one to deal with, we agreed that we were content.
The only thing I've got noted here is Councillor Allen's comment about the use of the term planning feeling confusing. But short of that, I've noted that committee are happy to accept it and not make any further recommendations. Is that okay for everyone? Is that fair?
Yeah, yes. Certainly Councillor Allen was the only one who did register a point. Okay.
I think content might be a better word than happy, Chair.
Didn't I say content?
That's fine.
Oh, I don't think we're ever happy, Councillor Evans. Content is the best we could ever hope for. Okay, Olivia, that's Samantha.
Yeah, just on to me. So it's a shorter section for the Scrutiny Advisory reports because this is our last meeting of this municipal year. So it's just the action sheet included for now. You'll know there's one action still outstanding, but I have chased that recently. Because I'll be speaking to that officer again. So about the invitation for the university, I'll raise it with it then as well. Board work programme is currently for the 23-24 year being developed with officers, and that'll be coming to the first meeting of this committee, which is 2nd of June, for committee's approval and to see if there's anything you want to add to it, any areas of interest, anything like that. So yeah, the next meeting would be the 2nd of June. Yeah, that's all from me, chasing items and working on the board work programme.
Thank you very much all for your attendance this morning.
Thank you.
Well.
Bye.